Giannis Antetokounmpo is on pace to be a two-time MVP, as in he will win his second MVP and go back to back. And it will be the second year in a row where Giannis Antetokounmpo is clearly the MVP in the National Basketball Association. And people will say he is undeserving of the MVP. But let's talk about Giannis. Let's talk about his stats. Giannis Antetokounmpo this year is averaging 29.6 points a game, 13.8 rebounds a game, 5.8 assists per game. He's shooting 54.8% from the field, 30.9% from three. He's shooting 62.9% from the free throw line. He's averaging a career high in points per game, a career high in rebounds per game, second most assists per game in his career. And what makes this all astonishing and absurd is he's doing all of this in only 30.8 minutes per game. He's almost on a point to minute sort of ratio as far as his scoring goes. That's absurd. That's insane. And he's going to win MVP not only because of his stats, because there's more to stats than MVP. Because honestly, unless you do something like Russell Westbrook did, where you have and achieve something as far as statistically, where you do something that people don't think is possible in the modern NBA. Like, people didn't think that a 6'3" point guard could average a triple-double in the NBA. But Russell Westbrook did it, and that's why he won MVP. Now, again, so unless you do something astounding, you're not going to do that. So wins do matter. And right now, the Bucks have the best record in the NBA. At the time of the recording of this video, the Bucks are currently 53-9. They hold the best record in the NBA, 85.5% winning percentage. They have a 9-game lead on the Toronto Raptors, who are the second seed in the Eastern Conference. And I'm bringing this up because the main competition for MVP is LeBron James. And he's on the Lakers. He's averaging 25.4 points a game, 7.8 rebounds a game, 10.7 assists per game, which leads the league, by the way. 49.7% from the field, 35.1% from three, shooting 69.3% from the line. And it really is story-driven with LeBron in a way. You know, it's mostly age. I'm not going to bring up the other thing that people are bringing up. If you know if you know what other people are bringing up as far as, you know, his case for MVP, as far as the story goes, and stories and how his story will help him win MVP. But just to let you know, I personally find that second story they're trying to use, or narrative they're trying to use, to be, you know, rather disrespectful and rather distasteful, and honestly a little bit unethical as well. But that's besides the point. LeBron James is having an MVP-worthy season. At 35, he is leading the league in assists, which is absurd, in my opinion. Now, with the MVP, I think when you have two players who are both putting up really good stats, I do think wins matter. I understand people that say, like, oh, but if you took this player off this team and you took this player off this team would be worse than the other team because the other team is better. I do understand that to an extent as far as an argument goes, but at the same time, when you are on pace to win as many games as the Bucks are going to, probably, you are probably going to win MVP. And especially given how absurd Giannis's production is, it's kind of obvious that Giannis is going to win MVP. I think he deserves to win MVP. Much in the same light of last year, where it's very much like Giannis deserves to win MVP, and Giannis will win MVP more than likely this year. But it's also not like LeBron isn't deserving. It's nothing to discredit what LeBron has done, because what LeBron has been doing is incredible, as you know LeBron does. Because LeBron ceases to always amaze me with what he's able to do. But much like what James Harden did last year, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't be like overly mad if LeBron won MVP, or last year it was Harden in that case. But Giannis should be the overwhelming favorite to win it. So again, just because you someone else gets robbed doesn't mean that the person who won is undeserving either. Because if you have an MVP season, you have an MVP season. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, Kawhi Leonard in 2016. Like, Kawhi Leonard had an MVP-worthy season. It just so happened to be that Steph Curry had one of the greatest regular seasons by a player in NBA history. So, again, I think the point of that whole shenanigan rant was, just because someone else wins it, don't think that people are discrediting what LeBron has done. It's just that they feel that someone else is more deserving. And Giannis will win MVP. Because, one argument that bothers me is this whole weak East argument. I don't think the Eastern Conference is as weak as people think it is. I think that they have a couple contenders. Of course, you have Milwaukee. I think Toronto's a sleeper contender to make it back to the finals in a way. You got teams like Miami, you got teams like Boston, Philly. They may not have the record, but if they're all healthy by the time the playoffs come around, we could be talking about them as a contender if they can, focus and play up to the amount of talent that they have. So there are 5 teams that I believe can make it to the finals in the East. It isn't like years past where you had maybe 1 or 2 teams in the East that can make it. And the West is still very stacked. At the top, you have LA, the 2 LA teams, the Clippers and the Lakers. They're the big contenders. Denver's a big team. You got teams like the Houston Rockets with their 2 superstars. You have up-and-coming teams like the Dallas Mavericks. You have a surprise team like the Thunder. The Jazz are always in the mix. So, again, I would say that the West is slightly better than the East as far as those top teams go. But, probably like 6 through 8. And you compare Indiana, maybe. Like, I think it's not as much of a gap as some people would think. Just putting that out there. Actually, I do think. So I think I don't know what I'm saying about that. But I think my point is the West is still better, but it's only slightly better now. I feel like the East is closer than a lot of people think, especially at the top. This isn't like years past. Also, like, people who bring up the weak East thing for Giannis, that's kind of hypocritical because LeBron won 4 MVPs in the East. And to further, I'm going to bring up 3 cases of when LeBron won MVP to show how weak the East was. In 2009, when he won the MVP, the 9th seed in the West was the Phoenix Suns, and they would have been the 5th seed in the East that year. In 2010, when LeBron won the 2nd MVP, the 9th seeded Rockets would have been the 8th seed in the East. And in 2013, the 9th seeded Jazz would have been the 7th seed in the East, and the 10th seeded Mavericks would have been the 8th seed in the East. So, don't use the weak East argument. It's stupid all around because, like, I understand you do play more Eastern Conference teams if you play in the East than if you play in the West. But at the same time, it's not like you don't play teams in the Western Conference. You still play a majority of the NBA teams regardless of conference. So, again, it doesn't completely make sense. Like, you lead your team to wins. You score more points, your team wins. I'm getting a little rambly, guys. I'm getting a little off script. I'm sorry about that. But, again, I think Giannis will win MVP. But I don't think it takes away from what, LeBron has been doing. And I think what LeBron has been doing is amazing. I think, I appreciate what LeBron has been doing his entire career, as far as a basketball fan, as me as a basketball fan. I think it's just amazing that I'm able to watch, a player, and I put him on a pedestal. He's in a 1A, 1B with Michael Jordan. Like, in my opinion, he is the greatest basketball player of all time alongside Michael Jordan. And he's the greatest basketball player I've ever seen. And honestly, I'm going as far to say he's the greatest athlete I have ever seen. So, I appreciate that, but, there's a new kid in town. His name's Giannis Antetokounmpo. And what I'm seeing from Giannis Antetokounmpo, you don't see that. And, we can talk about how he doesn't have skills and how he just is 7 feet tall and he can just run and dunk and how easy it is for him. But at the same time, if that was the case, we would see a lot of players like Giannis Antetokounmpo in the league. And I don't see a lot of players, like, if any player at all, that is like Giannis Antetokounmpo in the NBA. His ability to combine his athleticism, his IQ, his skills, and use that all to create this monster demigod of a basketball player. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that again. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much. It means so much to me, guys. You guys don't understand. But again, thank you. Like and subscribe if you're new. Feel free to leave feedback in the comments section below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.